In 1953, a single oil contract brought down an entire government, and what happened next would reshape the Middle East forever. The CIA had just pulled off their first successful coup. This is the story of Operation Ajax, the classified mission that toppled Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh in just 4 days. What you're about to discover isn't just history, it's the blueprint that would define American foreign policy for decades. By the end of this video, you'll understand how one covert operation created the Iran we know today. To understand what happened in 1953, we need to go back to 1951. Iran had just done something unprecedented. They nationalized their oil industry. For 50 years, the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, later known as BP, had controlled Iran's oil wealth while paying Iran mere pennies on the dollar. Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, a 69-year-old lawyer who often conducted meetings from his bed due to illness, had become Iran's most popular leader. His message was simple: Iran's oil should belong to Iran. The Iranian parliament voted unanimously to nationalize the industry, and overnight, Britain lost its most profitable overseas assay. Mossadegh represented something the West hadn't seen before in the Middle East: a secular democratic leader who commanded genuine popular support, explains Dr. Sarah Wilson, Middle East historian at Georgetown University. He wasn't a communist, he wasn't a religious extremist, he was a nationalist who believed in parliamentary democracy. Britain's response was swift and brutal. They imposed a crippling economic embargo, froze Iran's assets, and deployed warships to the Persian Gulf. British intelligence began plotting Mossadegh's removal, but they needed American help. Here's where the story gets complicated. President Truman initially refused to support a coup, believing America shouldn't overthrow democratically elected governments. But when Dwight Eisenhower took office in January 1953, everything changed. The CIA, led by Allen Dulles, saw an opportunity. They convinced Eisenhower that Mossadegh was pushing Iran toward communism, a claim that would later prove false. The Dulles brothers, Allen at CIA and John Foster at State Department, had extensive ties to oil companies and saw Iran's nationalization as a dangerous precedent. Operation Ajax began in earnest in June 1953. The CIA allocated $1 million, worth about $10 million today, to overthrow Mossadegh. They recruited Kermit Roosevelt Jr., grandson of President Theodore Roosevelt, to lead the operation from Tehran. The plan was audacious. Roosevelt would turn Iranian military officers, religious leaders, and street thugs against Mossadegh. They spread propaganda claiming he was a communist puppet, organized protests, and bribed key officials. The CIA even hired thugs to attack mosques and blame it on Mossadegh's supporters. What's remarkable about Ajax is how cheaply it was done, notes Dr. James Mitchell, author of The CIA's Secret Wars. For less than $1 million, they toppled a government that commanded massive popular support. It showed both the power and the danger of covert operations. The operation nearly failed. On August 15th, the Shah's initial attempt to dismiss Mossadegh backfired spectacularly. Pro-Mossadegh crowds filled the streets. The Shah fled to Rome, and Roosevelt was ordered to abort the mission. But Roosevelt refused to give up. He had cultivated relationships with Iranian military officers and organized crime figures. On August 19th, he unleashed them on Tehran's streets. August 19th, 1953, would change everything. CIA-paid mobs stormed through Tehran, attacking government buildings and pro-Mossadegh supporters. General Fazlollah Zahedi, the CIA's chosen replacement, led tanks against Mossadegh's residence. The battle lasted 9 hours. When the smoke cleared, Mossadegh was under arrest, and the Shah was back in power. Democracy in Iran was dead. The success of Ajax gave the CIA enormous confidence, explains Dr. Wilson. They thought they could replicate this anywhere. It led directly to Guatemala in 1954 and later disasters in Cuba and Chile. But the real consequences were just beginning. The Shah, now completely dependent on American support, abandoned democratic reforms and created one of the world's most repressive police states. The Savak, his secret police, tortured and executed thousands of political opponents. The 1953 coup didn't just change Iran, it transformed America's relationship with the Middle East. For the next 25 years, the Shah would be America's closest ally in the region, but his brutality bred the resentment that would explode in the 1979 Islamic Revolution. The irony is devastating. By overthrowing a democratic, secular leader, the CIA created the conditions for the theocratic regime that rules Iran today. The mullahs who seized power in 1979 used Ajax as proof that America couldn't be trusted, justification that resonates. Every crisis between America and Iran since 1979 traces back to August 19, 1953. The hostage crisis, the Iraq-Iran war, the nuclear program, the proxy conflicts across the Middle East, all of it stems from this single covert operation. The documents were declassified in 2013, 60 years later. They revealed that the CIA had always known Mossadegh wasn't a communist. They overthrew him anyway because he dared to challenge Western control over Middle Eastern oil.